And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, April 14th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day. So any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We are going to talk about the updated standings in the NBA. We'll talk about where everything currently sits as we approach the play-in games now, what happened over the weekend, and all that. So that's how we're going to start off the show today. Then in the second part of the show, I know we brought it up briefly last week on the show, but we're going to talk about the impact of the Browns signing Joe Flacco and, well, the impact that it has on the draft. Because I think with this signing, I think this isn't indication that Browns could be just taking best player available and then maybe taking quarterback later in the draft. So we'll get into all that in the next segment. Then we will also talk about Derek Carr in the third part of the show because there was news last week that his shoulder injury that he's dealing with right now, could potentially jeopardize his entire 2025 season, which would leave the Saints in a spot where they need a quarterback to start next year. So we'll talk about that. We'll also get into recapping the games over the weekend in Major League Baseball, where the standings are currently. And then in the final part of the show, we will continue our division rankings post free agency. Today we'll be covering the NFC West. So let's get into the first topic, which is going over the NBA standings, where they are currently, and what play-in games, what play-in matchups we will be getting. So, NBA regular season concluded yesterday, and we'll start off with the Eastern Conference because we want to save best for last. So right now, in the Eastern Conference, the Cavaliers are the number 1, the Celtics are the number 2, the Knicks are the number 3, the Pacers are the 4, the Bucks are at the 5, and the Pistons are at the 6. So we know what the 3, 6, and 4, 5 matchups are going to be. All right, you got the Knicks taking on the Pistons. That game will be on Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time at Madison Square Garden. TBD on whether I will be in attendance for that game or not. Pacers and Bucks is a rematch from last year in the first round. And the Pacers were really without Giannis for that series. He got hurt in that series. Did he even play in that series? I don't even remember. But needless to say, that will be the matchup, a rematch of last year's first-round matchup. And I was looking to see if there's any reports on Damian Lillard. So there's a report here, more optimism about Dame returning for the playoffs. So it says at some point during the playoffs. So he might not be able to come back for the first round. So, the Bucks got to hope that, they advance and, he comes back then. But it's that's going to be a tough matchup for them. The Pacers, obviously from watching the playoffs last year, know them well. They're a good team. And obviously they beat the Bucks last year. So, they could do it again, but now the Bucks have Giannis. They got Giannis, but no Dame, as opposed to last year where they had Dame, but no Giannis. So, but then you got the Knicks and the Pistons in the first round, and the Pistons went 3-1 against the Knicks this season. So, there's a potential upset there. There's a lot of people that are leaning on taking the Pistons over the Knicks in this series. Obviously, for me, I'm still going to lean towards the Knicks, but that's going to be a good series. I think these two series are going to be good. But then now let's get into the play-in because that's what I said we were going to talk about. So the first matchup is going to be tomorrow. You got the Hawks and the Magic. And then you have on Wednesday, you got the 9 and the 10 seeded teams. The Heat and the Bulls will be playing against each other. That'll be on ESPN. That's on Wednesday. So that's in the Eastern Conference. Then we move over to the Western Conference. All right, you got the Thunder, the Rockets. Well, the Thunder at the 1, the Rockets at the 2, Lakers at the 3, Nuggets at the 4 seed, Clippers 5. The Timberwolves are the 6 seed. Warriors are the 7 seed, Grizzlies the 8th seed, Kings are the 9th seed, and the Mavericks are the 10th seed. So we have, in the first round, the Lakers will be taking on the Timberwolves. That's going to be an interesting series. And then you got the Nuggets and the Clippers. These are 2 good series as well. However, the Warriors, I wanted to bring them up. They had a tough loss yesterday in overtime. They lost to the Clippers 124 to 119. James Harden and Kawhi Leonard both played really well in this game. James Harden, 39 points, had a double-double, had 10 assists, went 13 of 23 from the field, and Kawhi Leonard had 33 points, 13 of 20 from the field. And then you also had Zubac, who had 22 points. He had 17 rebounds. But yeah, the Warriors, a tough loss there. Jimmy Butler had 30 points for the Warriors. Steph Curry also had 36. Podziemski had 19. Draymond Green had 14. So yeah, they will be in the play-in, and they are taking on the Grizzlies. That'll be tomorrow, 10 p.m. on TNT. And the Warriors have not done well in the play-in. They are 0-3 in play-in games. So, they got to get off the schneid when it comes to that. But that's tough. But it just goes to show you again how jam-packed the Western Conference is. I mean, they could have finished maybe a little bit higher in the standings, but now they're a playing team. So yeah, that's that matchup, and then you got the Kings and the Mavericks. That'll be on Wednesday, 10 p.m. on ESPN. So yeah, no, that's the standings right now. We'll talk more about the games tomorrow as the Spider-Verse effects have taken place here once again. But yeah, it's going to be exciting, and then we'll see what the 1-8 and 2-7 matchups will be. Like I said, we'll go over the play-in games more so tomorrow. We'll get into all that. So 2 games tomorrow, 2 games Wednesday. I actually, to talk about the Nuggets briefly, since Michael Malone was fired, they went on a 3-game winning streak. They beat they beat a play-in team. They beat 2 playoff teams. So, maybe they made the right decision. Nah, I'm not gonna say that, but let's see what they do in the playoffs now. And this Clippers series, it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough on both teams. I think this is a series that could potentially go 7 games. I think you're going to see there's some good playoff series. There are. And, maybe not in the Eastern Conference when, the Cavaliers match up against their team and the Celtics match up against their team. But, Warriors, Rockets in the first round potentially, Grizzlies, Thunder. You can kind of see where I'm leaning in these play-in games. I think that's ultimately who's going to get the 7 and the 8. The Eastern Conference is kind of a little bit, up in the air. But, we'll see how it goes. We'll pay attention to these games. And, the rest of the playoff series will, be finalized after Wednesday. But the NBA season has come to an end, the regular season. And now we're in the playoffs. So actually, to look at what's been finalized. So you got 4 games on Saturday as of right now. Everything's on ESPN or ABC. So yeah, you got the Bucks and the Pacers. at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Clippers, Nuggets. Then you got the Pistons and the Knicks, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Lakers, Timberwolves is the primetime game. That's at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Sunday, as of right now, I don't actually. Are there any games listed? I guess there's no game listed. So those are the other matchups. Yeah. Let me know what you guys think, though. What series do you think are the best? Which ones are you most excited for? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, like I said, we'll see how they transpire. So we are going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we will talk about some football. Joe Flacco being brought back to Cleveland. Browns signed him to a 1-year deal. We'll talk about the impact that has on the Browns draft strategy and what they could potentially do with the number 2 overall pick. I know we talked about that recently, but I feel like with this, you can kind of see where they could be leaning, at least with their first pick. I mean, they could, address the quarterback position later, but we'll talk about all that. We'll talk about, Flacco just coming back to Cleveland, after being there for a bit in 2023. So, yeah, we will get into all that quarterback competition, all that good stuff when we return. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh,
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about the Browns bringing back Joe Flacco and what that could mean potentially for their draft. So Joe Flacco spent some time with the Browns in 2023. They brought him in late that season, and he took the Browns on a magic carpet ride. The Browns ended up winning 11 games. Man, my camera is just not cooperating today. That's, it's going to happen. It's a Monday, But, yeah, spent some time with the Browns towards the end of the 2023 season. With the Browns in 2023, 1,600 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. And the Browns did make the playoffs. They unfortunately did lose to the Texans. Their season kind of came to an end. Flacco threw a couple of pick sixes in that contest, and they ended up losing, and they were one and done. But you know what? He provided a spark for the Browns when they needed it, because Deshaun Watson, of course, got hurt. They were going through different quarterbacks, P.J. Walker, DTR, but they were somehow still hanging around. In the playoff picture. And, Flacco came in and, he played well down the stretch for them. And not only that, he ended up winning Comeback Player of the Year, which, he was surprised by. I think, some other people were surprised by that as to why that happened. But, look, like I said, he played well. He played well down the stretch and got the Browns in the playoffs. And then, the complete opposite happened last year, right? The Browns only won 3 games, and, now they're going to be picking at number 2. So now what does that mean? Do the Browns, still take a quarterback? What's happening there? I mean, I think this signals, like we talked about last week, Browns are going to, take best player available. And it does seem like they want to take Travis Hunter. I mean, they could do that. They could take Abdul Carter. It's going to be one of those 2 guys. So they're kind of in a similar spot with the Giants. Now, I think when you look at the quarterback rooms, I mean, I think the Giants slightly have the edge. I think, is that fair? Is that fair to say? When it comes to the quarterback rooms, I don't know. I mean, that's just me. I mean, I think Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, that's a better quarterback room than, Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. But then you could also say, well, Jameis was with the Browns last year. Yeah, that's a good point. But I think Russ is probably the best quarterback out of those 4 guys, in my opinion. But, I don't know if Flacco is going to start day 1. It's going to be a competition, right? You're going to see Kenny Pickett and Flacco battle it out in camp. And then, whoever impresses more is going to end up with the job ultimately. So, I think that's what's going to end up happening. Now, I think, Kenny Pickett will probably get the opportunity to start. And then, if he doesn't play well, then, they could always opt to go with Flacco. Because I don't think, at this point in Joe Flacco's career, I don't think that he's going to start, 17 games. That's not going to happen. But I do think, if Kenny Pickett starts, a decent amount of games, the Browns are kind of hovering around 500 like they were last year or 2 years ago, then, maybe you go to Flacco, he provides a spark. But, it's kind of, it's a little bit different now. The Browns running back room's a little bit different, well, actually, no, Jerome Ford is still going to be there, but they had Kareem Hunt. They don't have him anymore. Nick Chubb obviously was hurt, and, he's still a free agent. Nobody has signed him yet. I don't know what he's going to end up doing. We'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Browns are a team that, they're not coming off of a good year. I mean, I think if the quarterback play was a little bit better, and, if they didn't have so many injuries, it could have been they could definitely finish with more than 3 wins, but they didn't. So, yeah, I think the Browns are a team that definitely could finish with more than 3 wins next year. I do think they could bounce back. But it's really just now the number 2 overall pick. What are they going to do with that pick? It's either Abdul Carter or it's Travis Hunter. I mean, Travis Hunter, you add him, Andrew Berry, their GM, has talked about it, that, they could potentially, have him play primarily receiver instead of corner because they're kind of set at the corner position. And the Browns, I think, they could use Travis Hunter on that side of the ball because we did talk about the Browns and, kind of where they're at with their skill position players. Outside of Jerry Jeudy and, Cedric Tillman, like I said, in a previous show, he showed flashes at times. But, he's still a question mark. There's a lot of question marks there. Jerry Jeudy was coming off a very good year with the Browns. So I think, he kind of slides in and, he becomes that Amari Cooper replacement. Because Joe Flacco and Amari Cooper did have a nice rapport when, he was there previously. But I think who really benefits from this is David Njoku. David Njoku played really well with Flacco when he came over from the Browns. So, he was a touchdown machine with Flacco. Flacco targeted him a lot. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes. But, I haven't talked about Deshaun Watson yet. He's trying to come back. And, I don't know. We're probably not going to see him at all next year. We're probably not going to see him at all next year. All right, we finally got things back in order there. But he still, is hoping that he can come back. But, even if he tries to, I think he played his last game with the Browns when he got hurt. I don't think you're going to see him take another snap with the Browns. Last year was a big year for him, to kind of prove that he still has it, and he was not good. Didn't have one game where he threw for over 200 yards, and then he got hurt. Ruptured his Achilles, and then he ruptured it again rehabbing. So, yeah, it's Browns quarterback situation has just, it even goes back before Deshaun Watson. For years, they have just been trying to find their franchise quarterback. And you know what? They had it in Baker Mayfield. And they let him go. And now he's with Tampa. He has a new home there. They won a playoff game with Baker. They did do that. As you hear my dog barking for the dog pound for the Browns. They're just in a tough spot. But they did it. They did it to themselves. They traded all these assets for him. They gave him the fully guaranteed contract, Deshaun Watson, and it has just been a colossal failure. So, I think what's going to happen is you're going to see the Browns take best player available at 2, and then maybe at some point they'll draft a quarterback. I think, because they do need one. Because it's not Kenny Pickett. Joe Flacco, he's there as a veteran presence, and, if he has to go on that magic carpet ride again, take them on that magic carpet ride towards the end of the year, so be it. It's not a guarantee that can happen again. But they don't have their franchise quarterback on the roster. They don't. So, whether it's drafting one this year, or maybe you wait till next year and the quarterback class is better. But I feel like you are going to see the Browns take a quarterback at some capacity. In some capacity with this draft. I think they'll address the running back position at some point. Because, look, Abdul Carter, yes, you draft him and you pair him up with Myles Garrett. Yeah, that's quite a pass rush. Quite a duo. But I think Travis Hunter, with the Giants, I think that would probably be the... Well, Abdul Carter, I think... for the Giants, that could, be better for them. Because Brian Burns is not the player Myles Garrett is. They got Dexter Lawrence too, but Abdul Carter would really make a difference for the Giants. He would make a difference for the Browns too, but again, they have Myles Garrett. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I do think where we're at right now, I think you're going to see the Browns, take Travis Hunter, and then, we'll see what happens after the fact. But Joe Flacco's back. Browns fans were probably saying we never wanted him to leave. Which, yeah, because Jameis, although, at times he made plays, but he also threw a lot of interceptions. And that's what comes with Jameis, and now he's with the Giants, and we'll see if he gets a chance to start, but it's Russell Wilson's job. That's what that's who's going to be the starter. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the Browns bringing back Joe Flacco. What do you see the Browns doing with their number 2 overall pick? Let me know in the comments. So before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So, when we come back from our next break, we will get into talking about Derek Carr and his season being in jeopardy potentially with shoulder injury that he's dealing with, and what that means for the Saints, what they could do, what they have to do at the quarterback position. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the third part of the show, we are now going to talk about Derek Carr potentially missing the 2025 season, starting quarterback for the Saints, with a shoulder injury. He's kind of weighing his options right now. He could opt to undergo surgery on his shoulder, his throwing shoulder, and yeah, that's going to leave the Saints without a starting quarterback in 2025, and you only have Spencer Rattler. Now, the Saints currently hold the number 9 pick, and, you know, if, let's say, Shedeur Sanders potentially slides to them, maybe they take him. But this is another contract that just really hasn't panned out. Really hasn't panned out. Derek Carr has gotten hurt. You know, he's missed time with injuries. And, you know, last year he, you know, had a hand injury, oblique injuries, and it's just, and the Saints just haven't been a good team. They haven't been a good team. So, yeah, right now you got Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. Ben DiNucci also, I think, is on the roster. And, you know, most of the veteran quarterbacks are signed. Now, there is one man that still hasn't signed yet, and it opens up the door for another possibility, and that is Aaron Rodgers going to the Saints. I mean, in terms of the division, the AFC or the NFC West, the NFC South is, we're talking about the NFC West later in the show, but the NFC South, you know, is not a gauntlet of a division by any means. You know, so if Rodgers went there, I don't think that would be terrible. But, you know, I don't know. It's not a Super Bowl contender. So, yeah, but I don't want to make this about Aaron Rodgers, though. But, yeah, I mean, like I said, the Saints, they could, if Shedeur Sanders maybe slides down to them, they take him. Or, you know, you could run it up with Spencer Rattler for the whole year. But it's tough. It's tough. You know, the Derek Carr experiment really has not panned out for them. He didn't get off to a good start last year, but again, got hurt. He finished with 15 touchdowns to 5 picks, 2,100 yards passing. The year before that, 3,800 yards passing, 25 touchdowns to 8 picks. But, yeah, the Saints just, they haven't gone anywhere. They haven't gone anywhere with him. And, right now, I mean, their cap situation hasn't been good for years. And they also dealt with a lot of injuries besides the quarterback last year, right? You had receivers getting hurt. It was just a ton of injuries. So had the Saints not got ravaged with that, maybe they could have finished with a better record because I think they ended up winning only 5 games. Yeah, so next year, you got Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed coming back, and you signed Brandon Cooks. You got Kamara. It's not a bad supporting cast, but Saints need to add more to that offense. The defense obviously is getting older. They traded away some pieces last year. They traded Marshawn Lattimore. And now you got Kellen Moore stepping in. Kellen Moore's got a lot of work to do with this team. And is he the right man? They got to give him time, though. This can't be a thing where, after 1 year, you say, all right, we're going in a different direction. No, you got to give it time and hope that, he could develop a team and, get the Saints back to being, respectable. Because they haven't been there recently since Sean Payton left. But, yeah, it's just tough for Derek Carr. It's injuries have kind of just plagued his career in general. 2016, he was probably going to win the MVP with the Raiders, and he ends up getting hurt. And then, the Raiders go from maybe being the 1 seed to, being, I think, a wild card team and losing in the first round. They had to start, a third-string quarterback. It's just, I feel like he hasn't been able to catch a break. And then just all the stuff that's gone on, with the Raiders after that, with, the off-the-field stuff with guys like Henry Ruggs and, John Gruden. It's just, and then, Josh McDaniels comes in and, he benches Derek Carr final couple games. Derek Carr's dealt with a lot in his career. And now he goes to the Saints, and it just hasn't panned out. And Derek Carr's a good guy. It's unfortunate what's happened to him over the course of his career. But, again, still weighing his options. It's not official yet, but, if he ends up undergoing surgery, he's going to be out the whole year. And that's a year of his career wasted. And right now he's 34. So, and he looked like he was going to have a great year last year after the first couple games, and that was it. That was the peak of the Saints season, was them starting off 2-0. But we'll see what happens. They still have some veteran players on the team. Again, got to get guys back healthy, and see what happens. But you got to figure out who's playing quarterback. I don't think they should be going into next year with Spencer Rattler as their quarterback unless they opt to do that. But it's tough right now. Tough right now for the Saints, and they could be looking for a quarterback. But let's see. Let me see if there's any other veteran options out there besides Rodgers. Again, because most of the guys got signed. Let's see. Any free agent options here? Let's look at the quarterbacks. Well, Drew Lock signed with the Seahawks. I know that. Joe Flacco signed back with the Browns. Carson Wentz is out there. I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is an option. Tyler Huntley, Desmond Ridder, Ian Book. Oof. And Ian Book was with the Saints. Yeah, there's really not any appealing options out there for the Saints to sign, other than Aaron Rodgers, if they end up getting him, or if he still wants to play. But I think he's going to the Steelers. I mean, could they? They could also trade for one. They could trade for one if they have to. That's also a possibility. I don't know who they would trade for, but they could trade for someone. I mean, Carson Wentz, I feel like, of the guys that are still available, other than Aaron Rodgers, I feel like that's the best option. Because he didn't sign with anybody. No, he's still a free agent. He's still a free agent right now. So, yeah, but there's not really a lot of appealing options for the Saints. And then, looking at their draft picks, I mean, they could be a team that, you take best player available first round, and then, maybe you take quarterback in the second round. But some people in their mock drafts, they do have Shedeur Sanders sliding to them at 9. That could be what they end up doing. That could be the quarterback that Kellen Moore works with and develops, because, if he goes past, the top 3, I mean, I don't know who's going to take him. I mean, you could maybe the Raiders, but the Raiders could be looking to take best player available. I mean, they extended Geno Smith, so maybe they don't want to do that. I don't know. But yeah, right now the Saints, they got the 9th pick, they got the 40th pick, the 71st pick, the 93rd pick, the 112th pick, and the 131st pick. So yeah, they only have they got 6 picks. We'll see. I think you will see them take a quarterback in this draft. Because last year they took Spencer Rattler. I guess that was with their 3rd round pick. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's another team, the Saints. They just have not been able to find that franchise quarterback since Drew Brees. Hasn't happened. But let me know what you guys think about the Saints and their situation. You think Derek Carr is going to miss the year? And if he does, is Aaron Rodgers an option? Do they go with the draft? Do they trade for a quarterback? I think you could definitely see them trade for a quarterback. You could see that. Either that or drafting. I don't think you're going to see them sign Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that's happening. But maybe it does. You never know. So we are going to take our next break. And then when we come back, we'll talk about the games from over the weekend in Major League Baseball, take a look at the standings, where everything looks right now. Midway through April. There's a lot of good teams in the National League, and we will talk about that more specifically when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the 4th part of the show, we are now going to talk about the games from over the weekend in Major League Baseball, where the standings currently are at right now at this point. But before that, we do have some breaking news. So Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees, he has officially been named team captain of Team USA for the World Baseball Classic for next year, I think it is. Yes, for next year. Now, when I opened Instagram during the break, one of the Yankee fan pages that I follow, I opened it up and there's a picture of Aaron Judge, and I thought, oh no, don't tell me he's hurt now. He's dealing with something. But no, he's named team captain. So good for him. He'll be playing in the World Baseball Classic, so looking forward to that. But yeah, no injury news there, thankfully, because the Yankees don't need that. But I don't want to talk about the Yankees because they were very disappointing over the weekend. I mean, we will talk about them, but let's talk about some of the other teams. So, looking at the standings right now, the Toronto Blue Jays are actually in first place in the American League East. The American League East is tight right now. I mean, the game's obviously just started. We're a couple weeks in, but you got the Blue Jays who are half game up. The Yankees are behind them. Red Sox are 8-9 currently. They're a game and a half back. Rays are 7-8. They're a game and a half back, and the Orioles, they're 6-9. They're 2.5 games back. They're in last place right now. Then in the AL Central, you got the Tigers are currently in first place at 9-6. Tigers are a good team. They got good pitching. Some good players in the lineup as well. But yeah, they're built on good starting pitching. Right now, their run differential is plus 15, which is second behind the Yankees in the American League. You got the Guardians behind them, 1 game back. The Royals are a game and a half back. The Twins are 5-11 on the year. They've gotten off to a tough start. They're 4.5 games back, and the White Sox are 4-11. They're 5 games back. Angels have gotten off to a surprising start. They're 9-6 right now. They're in first place. Rangers are a half game back. They're 9-7. They've lost 3 in a row. The Mariners have won 4 in a row. They're 8-8. Astros are 7-8, and the A's are 6-10. Then over in the National League, you got the Mets. They're a game up on the Phillies. They're in first place. Right now, they got the what do they got? The fourth best, the fifth best? Oh, the fourth best run differential in the National League. But yeah, they're in first place. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. The Phillies are 9-6 behind them. The Marlins, 2 games back. They're 8-7. Nationals are 6-9. They're 4 games back. And then you got the Braves, who are just 4-11, 6 games back. Still a lot of season left, but yeah, they're 1-9 on the road this year. It has not been good for them. They got to get healthy. Spencer Strider is hopefully coming back soon. He made a rehab start recently. I think he had like 13 strikeouts, so they need him. That'll be a good boost for their rotation. And Ronald Acuna is still a little bit away from coming back. So yeah, but not looking good for the Braves right now. The Cubs, coming off of a series win against the Dodgers, they are 11-7. They got the best run differential in baseball, plus 43. Kind of helps with the 16-0 win over the Dodgers over the weekend. But yeah, they're looking good right now. They're looking good. But actually, they are looking good, but they did lose their ace, Justin Steele. He is out for the year. Might be undergoing Tommy John. That's a tough break for them. But I think it's something that they could overcome. But yeah, that's the tough loss for them and their pitching staff. Other guys are going to have to step up there. The Reds, they got off to a tough start, but they've been playing better. They've won 3 straight. They're 8-8. That's my NL Central pick. The Brewers are 8-8 after a tough start. Cardinals are 7-8. Pirates are 5-11. National League West, best division in baseball. You got 4 teams over 500 right now. Padres are 13-3. The Giants are 11-4. Dodgers are 11-6. They've lost 2 in a row. They're not going undefeated, guys. People were saying that. I mean, obviously there was some joking, kidding around with that, but yeah, no, they that was never going to happen. And then the Diamondbacks are 9-7, and the Rockies are 3-12. And like I said, the Cubs, I did want to focus on that. They did lose 3-0 to the Dodgers on Friday. Yoshinobu Yamamoto pitched very well in that game. But then the Cubs, they won the next 2. Saturday, they won 16-0. Now, all of the runs that the Cubs scored, well, other than 1 run, they scored 15 runs in the final 4 innings. They put up 5 in the 7th, 4 in the 8th, 5 in the 9th. They did put up 1 in the 6th. But their offense, went off in the final, several innings. And this is against good Dodger pitching. The Dodgers have a good bullpen. And, the Dodgers, they kind of waved the white flag. They ended up putting in Miguel Rojas, who was doing some imitations of the pitchers on the team. I think he was doing Sasaki's windup or Yamamoto's windup. He did Kershaw's windup. A very good impression of his teammates there. But, Sasaki started the game. He pitched 5 innings. He only gave up 1 run. So it really wasn't on him. It was on, the other pitchers that the Dodgers put in. But, yeah, the Cubs, he had, Kyle Tucker, he's gotten off to a great start this year. That's from last year. 5 home runs this year, 18 RBIs, 324 batting average. He's got 1,000 OPS. He looks good. And I know Cubs fans definitely want to keep him. Michael Busch, he's gotten off to a good start. He's playing well. Cubs are looking good. Carson Kelly, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs. He's batting .417 on the season and 24 at-bats. He's got a 1,600 OPS. So far, that's been a good signing for them. Yeah, Cubs are looking good. They, after they lost to the Dodgers, they got swept in the Tokyo series. They got their revenge. They got their revenge there. But that NL West is it's unbelievable. The Padres, they're looking good. They shut out the Rockies on back-to-back days behind good pitching. On Saturday, who pitched for them on Saturday? On Saturday, Kyle Hart pitched for them. He pitched 6 innings, 1 hit, 4 strikeouts. Bullpen locked it down the rest of the way. And then Michael King yesterday pitched a shutout, pitched the whole game. He's 3-0 with a 2.42 ERA on the year. 8 strikeouts, only gave up 2 hits. But yeah, this is another team. Good lineup, good pitching. 13-3 on the year. They're a very good team. Mets are coming off of a series win over the A's. Kodai Senga, he pitched very well yesterday. He went 7 innings, 4 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikes, making sure that he's healthy and he's pitching like this. Because, they're dealing with injuries to their rotation. Sean Manaea is hurt right now. They're trying to get him back, hopefully soon. You also got Frankie Montas, which I don't know how much of a factor he's going to be. But Mets pitching has been very good. The bullpen has been a key for them. It really has, because that's something, again, I talked about this before. It's been an Achilles heel for them. But, it's looked good. And, Juan Soto hasn't been, he's been good. He hasn't been, out of this world. You know who has been out of this world? Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso has looked really good for the Mets so far this year. And, if he continues this, he's going to, get a big contract at the end of the year. Because I think he can opt out after this year. But I think with Vladimir Guerrero signing with the Blue Jays, he's not an option now. I think the Mets and Pete Alonso will, find a way to, extend the partnership. And you know what? He's a guy that, is a Met. You don't want to see him in another. You don't want to see him in another uniform, right? He's an all-time Met. He has the potential to be an all-time Met. He has a chance to beat the home run record this year. I think, right? I think he does. All-time Mets home run record be the Mets all-time leader in home runs. I think he has the chance to do that this year. I might be wrong on that. But you want to see him do that. And the Mets for years have just seen a lot of these players, like you thought Jacob deGrom was going to be an all-time Met. That ended up not happening. It's you want to see a guy stay. And Pete Alonso is that guy. So, again, he's gotten off to a good start. We'll see how long this lasts. I don't know. if this is going to last the whole year. I mean, because he's not a 321 hitter. Right now he's batting 321, 4 homers, 18 RBIs. He's got an 1,000 OPS. But, yeah, I mean, it does help when you have Soto batting in front of you, right? And, yeah, as for Soto, 250, 1 home run, 4 RBIs, 794 OPS. Not quite the start he got off to last year, but, he's still been solid. He's getting walked a bunch of times. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. But I know everybody will jump on him and say, yeah, he's not doing what he did with the Yankees last year. I get it. But he's going to put together a very good season. Maybe not as good as last year because, he doesn't have Aaron Judge batting behind him. But, Soto's going to have a good year. So, let's relax. But yeah, they've gotten off to a good start. The Giants are coming off of a series win over the Yankees. They're 11-4. I mean, as a Yankee fan, it's just that series was frustrating because the Yankees definitely could have won that series against the Giants. They had a chance yesterday. It looked like they were on their way to winning that series. They really did. But then Carlos Rodon gives up 2 home runs. Well, one earlier in the game to Jung-Hoo Lee, and then he hangs a breaking ball right down the middle for Jung-Hoo Lee, and he puts that in the seats for a 3-run homer to put the Giants up 4-3, and the Giants ultimately won the game. Giants ultimately win the game, and Yankees lose another series. But Yankees right now are not whole. Their rotation is not great. Their starter ERA is the worst in baseball. Really, their only dependable starter right now is Max Fried, although they will be getting Clark Schmidt back this week. They placed Marcus Stroman on the injured list with a knee injury. And how about Marcus Stroman on Friday? He gave the Yankees 0 chance to win. He put the Yankees behind early. The conditions were not great. I understand that. But at the same time, the Giants are dealing with the same conditions, and they seem to be fine. But, yeah, it's just Yankees, for them, it's going to be a grind. It's going to be a grind because they're pitching. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, there's guys in the minors potentially they could bring up, but yeah, it's tough. Garrett Cole is not walking through that door. He's not. So, they hope they can get Clark Schmidt back. He's going to be back. Well, really, they got to hope they get Luis Gil back at some point because, he was Rookie of the Year last year. So they're going to need him. And, yeah, no, we'll see how it goes. We will see how it goes. But it's just it's tough sledding right now for the Yankees and their starting pitching. Their bullpen, has been good. And I feel like we've seen good signs out of some of the young guys. Like Ben Rice has had a good year so far. Jason Dominguez at times has been productive. Anthony Volpe's gotten off to a good start. Paul Goldschmidt has been a good acquisition, but it's going to be tough. But you look at the American League, it's just there's nobody that's really separating themselves right now. The National League, I mean, look, I tried to be respectful to the American League by including a top 5 team, but I really don't think there should be a team in the top 5 in the American League right now when you do power rankings for baseball. You got the Padres, the Giants, the Dodgers, the Cubs, and the Mets right now. And the Phillies are there too. Then I'd probably say, hey, there's an American League team. But nobody's really separating themselves. So it's just Yankees can still win the American League, but it's not going to be like it was last year. It's just not. It's just not. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the games from over the weekend. Anything that jumped out at you, let me know in the comments. Again, I apologize for the continuous, issues that we are having with my camera today. I don't know what's going on, but it just doesn't want to cooperate, which is fine. It is what it is. At least we have a backup camera. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see me at all. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about what's going on in baseball. So, yeah, but a lot of good teams in the National League. The National League is really good this year. It is really good. And for the American League, hey, somebody's going to have to win it, right? We are only in April. A lot of things can happen. Man, this just does not want to help me out today. There we go. All right, so we are going to take our final break of the show now. And then when we come back, we will talk about the NFC West. We're going to talk about the NFC West. I will do my post-free agency rankings for the NFC West when we come back. So make sure to tune in. You don't want to miss that. So, for one final time today, make sure to stick around. And we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to rank the teams in the NFC West post-free agency. Now, this was a division last year that was very competitive. You saw each team, I think, be in first place at least once during the year. And I think this is going to be a very competitive division once again in 2025. Now, number one for me, I think, is easy. Ranking 2 through 4 is tough. Because I think the 49ers are not this juggernaut that they once were. I do think the Cardinals and the Seahawks are more competitive teams than, especially the Cardinals. The Cardinals have been more competitive, because the last couple of years they've had some down years. But, yeah, I'm still going to rank the Cardinals last. Sorry, I was charging my laptop. But, and once again, my camera turns off. Great. Cardinals, I think I still got to put them last. I do like the Josh Sweat signing. I did like that because that's something that they needed to address last year because their pass rush was not great last year. They did extend Trey McBride. This is a big year for Kyler Murray. And we want to see, Marvin Harrison Jr. take that next step in year 2. So, there's a lot riding on the Cardinals. We did talk about them last week and how, there's pressure on the current regime to kind of go out there and, be better. And this team be better. Because they did get off to a good start, and they won some close games. They were competitive against some good teams. I mean, the Bills, they were up against them in week 1, and then the Bills came back. So, this is a big year. And, we'll see if they can get back to the promised land, if Kyler Murray can play better down the stretch. Because that always just seems to be the common thing with the Cardinals. Even going back to when Cliff Kingsbury was the coach. They would get off to these fast starts, and then they would tail off towards the end of the year. So, there's that. But I think the defense is more of the concern. I think the offense is good. You have James Conner back there running the football. Trey McBride, they extended him. He's a very good tight end. And Kyler Murray, I don't think is, a bad quarterback. I think he is, decent. But, I think you still need to add another wide receiver there, which I think they could potentially do in the draft. We'll see. But the defense, I think, that's the side of the ball that needs a lot of work. Actually, Calais Campbell they brought back recently. So, but, he's an older player. He's not going to have the same impact he once did. But he does provide veteran leadership on that side of the ball, and I think they need that. You still have Budda Baker back there in the secondary, so but they got to add more to it. But yeah, I got to put them last. I put the Seahawks ahead of them. The Cardinals have had problems with the Seahawks. I know different team now with Sam Darnold. They've had a weird offseason, the Seahawks. They traded DK Metcalf, they cut Tyler Lockett, but then you go out and you sign Cooper Kupp. You also signed DeMarcus Lawrence. You signed Sam Darnold. I think this team could still be decent, and I will still defend the fact that I think the Seahawks did upgrade at quarterback. I think Sam Darnold is an upgrade over Geno Smith. Not significantly, but I think he's, still an upgrade. Mike McDonald did a good job his first year. And I think let's see what they do in this draft. But, I don't think the Seahawks are going to be a bad team next year. I think they will be competitive. But how is Sam Darnold going to be going from the situation that he had in Minnesota to now? How is that going to play out? That remains to be seen. Because we've seen Sam Darnold in other places. We saw him in Carolina. Didn't really work out. We didn't really get to see him a lot in San Francisco. But I think had Brock Purdy got hurt for a significant amount of time, I think Sam Darnold would have stepped in and played well enough that they would have been fine. But, so this is going to be big for him, and they got a good running game. You got Jackson Smith and Jigba there. They brought in Cooper Kupp. The problem is the offensive line, right? The offensive line is not good, and they're going to have to fix that. But I'm going to put them at 3. I'm going to put the 49ers at 2. I'm all for the 49ers bounce back. Again, it's not a guarantee, but they dealt with a lot of injuries. I know they made a lot of changes in the offseason. No more Greenlaw, Ufanga. They traded Deebo Samuel. But you still got a lot of those pieces there. You still got Nick Bosa. You still got Fred Warner. You got Brock Purdy, George Kittle. Hopefully Brandon Ayuk bounces back. Christian McCaffrey. Trent Williams. They still got good players on this roster. They're just going to have to, revamp. And this draft is a good opportunity for that. So, the 49ers are not, they're not out of this. They're going to be, I think they're going to bounce back and be a good team again. But we'll see what happens. But it was a rough year for them. They finished in last place. I did not expect that going into the year. I thought they were going to be, I had them as the 1 seed. But they dealt with a lot of injuries, and this is what happened to them a couple years ago. Similar circumstances. So they're going to have to bounce back. They're going to have to pay Brock Purdy at some point. But they haven't really made any, significant moves with the, with the roster other than subtractions. We take a look at the additions that they've made. So for them, they signed Luke Farrell, another tight end. Patrick Taylor they brought back, signed a safety. Richie Grant, Luke Gifford, a linebacker. Kevin Givens, D-tackle. Jason Pinnock, safety from the Giants. Demarcus Robinson they brought in, so he's basically, he's insurance policy if Ayuk doesn't come back healthy. And Demarcus Robinson, was playing well with the Rams, so, it wasn't a bad pickup. Actually, they did bring over Mac Jones, 2-year deal. So So he could be the latest quarterback to, improve his stock and be a starter again, in the 49ers system. But yeah, nothing really significant with the 49ers. Now, at number one, I got the Rams. Number one, I have the Rams. I love what they did, simply, getting Davante Adams. I think Davante Adams is an upgrade over Cooper Kupp at this point in their careers. I think Davante Adams still has a lot left in the tank. And this is a good team that he's going to. And he's going to be opposite of Puka Nacua, who's one of the best receivers in the NFL. Matthew Stafford, the Rams were able to figure things out with him. And that defense improved as the year went along. That defensive line really got after the quarterback. I mean, they terrorized Sam Darnold in that playoff game. And, they made things hard on Jalen Hurts. And, the Rams, they could have won that game. They came very close. So we'll see what they do in the draft. Drafting Jared Verse last year, he played well. They got him and Fisk on the defensive line. I mean, they're going to be a good team. And, that defense, again, another year to grow and develop. And, with this rookie class coming in, with however they address things. Yeah, no, it's the Rams are going to be a Super Bowl contender in my eyes. If Stafford could play up to how he did once Kupp and Puka came back last year, and now you had Davante Adams, also Tyler Higbee coming back late in the season, having him the whole year, that's going to really pay dividends for this team. You got Kyron Williams who can run the football effectively for them. I think for them, prioritize offensive line, add more to the offensive line if they can, because the offensive line dealt with a lot of injuries last year. You want to have better depth there. Defense, I mean, secondary, linebacker, I feel like positions like that they'll look at. But yeah, I mean, look, I think they're a Super Bowl team. I really do believe that. But yeah, so to run through it, Cardinals, I got in 4th, Seahawks 3, 49ers 2, Rams 1. That's how I see everything right now. But let me know what you guys think, though, about those rankings. How would you rank the teams in the NFC West post-NFL draft? And that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I apologize for a lot of the technical issues that we were experiencing, but hey, we were able to make it through. That's what happens. That's what makes my show, is when you have issues with the camera. It's all good. But we will be back again tomorrow. We'll preview the play-in games for tomorrow night. We will move over to the AFC side of things and do rankings post free agency. We'll start off with the AFC East, and then in between all that, we'll try to figure out some of the other things to talk about tomorrow. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well on the network. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to our videos as well. We greatly appreciate it. We appreciate you guys' support as we put out content for you guys. Also, wherever you get your podcasts, check us out on those platforms as well, so you can listen to us on the go. So you don't have to actually see the technical issues with my camera happening. You could just hear me complaining about it on the broadcast. So, yeah, that's basically it. So, as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, everybody, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's
go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to